I was offered the Hulk, or I was offered Banner, for the first actor to play both Banner and the Hulk.
I'm telling you, I've been here. I know this. You have a really special movie here.
No, my daughter's like, yeah, he's the Hulk!
Hollywood spent years saying Mark Ruffalo wasn't leading man material. Then they cast him as pure rage. The irony is he got the role because he knew how to stay calm under pressure. Most people never survive. Hollywood didn't reject Mark Ruffalo loudly. It just never bet on him. He wasn't framed as a leading man, wasn't pushed as a star, and wasn't seen as someone who could carry spectacle. Then Marvel handed him a character built on rage and destruction, and everything changed. Not because he could explode on command, but because he understood control under pressure most people never experience. This isn't the story of how Hulk got louder. It's the story of how calm, restraint, and lived pain finally made the monster work. Before Mark Ruffalo became the Hulk, Hollywood barely noticed him, and that invisibility cut deeper than outright rejection. He wasn't famous, wasn't bankable, and didn't fit any obvious mold the industry knew how to sell. Casting rooms passed him by because he didn't arrive with heat, hype, or an easily marketable persona. Ruffalo spent years grinding through theater basements, indie films that barely reached audiences, and bit parts that vanished without leaving a trace. He had talent, but in Hollywood, talent without momentum is almost a liability. You're seen as almost, never urgent. He auditioned endlessly, memorizing sides late into the night, hoping this one might finally stick. Most of the time, no one called back. Bills piled up. Doubt grew louder. At his lowest point, acting stopped feeling like a calling and started feeling like a gamble he was losing badly. He questioned whether passion was enough to justify instability, embarrassment, and exhaustion. Friends moved on to stable lives. Ruffalo stayed behind, still believing in something no one else seemed to see. And just when it felt like rejection had done its worst, life stepped in with a challenge far crueler than Hollywood indifference ever could. Just as Ruffalo's career showed the faintest signs of movement, life delivered a blow that reframed everything. Doctors found a tumor in his brain. They called it benign, but that word offered little comfort when surgery was unavoidable and risks were terrifyingly real. The operation saved his life, but it came at a cost no actor is prepared to pay. Half of his face became paralyzed. His speech changed. His expressions no longer responded the way they once had. For someone whose livelihood depended on nuance, control, and presence, it felt like losing his identity overnight. Survival came with grief attached. Ruffalo withdrew, not out of arrogance, but out of fear. He avoided mirrors because they reflected a stranger. He avoided auditions because rejection now felt guaranteed. Confidence collapsed into silence. For nearly a year, he stepped away from acting entirely, wrestling with the idea that his dream might have ended not with applause, but with a diagnosis. Hollywood, indifferent as ever, didn't pause. Roles were cast, projects moved forward. The industry did what it always does. It moved on without him. And in that quiet absence, Ruffalo faced the hardest question of all. Who are you when the thing you love may never love you back again? Years later, Marvel Studios faced an unexpected problem. The Hulk, despite his iconic status, wasn't working on screen. 2 attempts had failed to connect emotionally. Audiences saw destruction, but not depth. Anger, but not humanity. The character felt loud but hollow. Studios wanted safer choices, actors who could deliver spectacle without complexity. But Marvel, still unproven at the time, wanted something riskier. They wanted truth. They needed an actor who understood restraint more than rage, someone who could make Bruce Banner feel like a man burdened by himself, not a caricature waiting to explode. Ruffalo didn't look like a superhero. He didn't sound intimidating. He carried softness, weariness, and thoughtfulness. And that scared executives who expected brute force. But that was exactly why he mattered. He knew what it meant to feel fragile inside a body that betrayed you. He knew how silence could be louder than shouting. Where others might play anger outwardly, Ruffalo carried it inward. The Hulk didn't need another monster. He needed a soul. And without realizing it, Marvel had found someone who already lived with one. When Ruffalo was announced as the new Bruce Banner, skepticism hit immediately. Critics called him too gentle, too quiet, too emotionally exposed. They expected rage from the start, not restraint. But Ruffalo understood something essential. Hulk isn't about anger. He's about fear. Fear of hurting people. Fear of losing control. Fear of becoming someone you can't come back from. Ruffalo played Banner like a man constantly managing himself, monitoring every breath, every reaction. His calm wasn't weakness, it was defense. Every smile looked practiced. Every joke carried tension beneath it. You could feel the effort it took for him to stay composed. And that made the transformation matter. When Hulk finally emerged, it didn't feel like a special effect. It felt like something breaking loose that had been held back for too long. Pain didn't arrive with a roar. It escaped. Ruffalo didn't perform anger. He performed containment. And that choice changed everything. The monster finally had context. The destruction finally had consequence. For the first time, Hulk felt tragic instead of cartoonish. And audiences leaned in instead of pulling away. When the Avengers released, the difference was immediate and undeniable. Bruce Banner wasn't dominant or intimidating. He was nervous, self-aware, quietly funny, and visibly tired of himself. He felt like a man who had lived with his problem longer than anyone around him realized. And when he finally said, "That's my secret, I'm always angry," the line landed not because it sounded cool, but because it felt honest. It reframed everything. This wasn't a man discovering rage. This was a man surviving with it daily. Ruffalo grounded scenes instead of overpowering them. He let others shine while anchoring the emotional center. Hulk's strength came from contrast, not volume. The calm made the chaos hit harder. For the first time, audiences didn't just watch Hulk. They understood him. Marvel didn't just fix a character. They unlocked emotional logic. Hulk wasn't there to smash. He was there because someone inside him was struggling to hold it together, and that struggle felt real. As the MCU expanded, Ruffalo continued reshaping Hulk quietly and deliberately. He resisted turning the character into a punchline or a spectacle. Instead, he leaned into consequence. Every transformation mattered. Every loss lingered. Over time, Banner and Hulk stopped feeling like enemies and started feeling like survival partners. Two responses to the same trauma. One internal, one external. By the time Avengers Endgame arrived, Hulk wasn't rage anymore. He was balance, acceptance, integration. Ruffalo achieved something rare in blockbuster cinema. He let growth happen without noise, without speeches, without dominance. He showed that healing doesn't always look heroic. Sometimes it looks awkward, incomplete, quiet. And that restraint gave Hulk longevity. He wasn't just strong, he was layered. Ruffalo made the monster human, not by shrinking him, but by understanding him. Mark Ruffalo didn't become Hulk because he looked powerful. He became Hulk because he understood powerlessness. He knew what it felt like to lose control of your body, to wake up unsure of what version of yourself you'd be that day. Fear, fragility, and uncertainty weren't abstract ideas to him. They were lived experiences. Hulk wasn't fantasy, he was metaphor. That's why Ruffalo never tried to tame the monster. He listened to it. He treated it with empathy instead of force. And in doing so, he gave audiences something rare. A superhero who wasn't defined by dominance, but by honesty. Ruffalo didn't need to roar to be unforgettable. His Hulk mattered because it felt true. And that truth is what turned an overlooked actor into a legend. Mark Ruffalo didn't change the Hulk by making him louder. He changed him by making him human. Hollywood thought rage needed volume. Ruffalo understood it needed restraint. And that's why the monster finally worked. Now I want your take. Do you think Hulk would have survived in the MCU without this quieter, more controlled version? Or was this the only way the character could ever last? Leave your answer in the comments. And if you enjoy stories that look past fame and dig into why certain performances actually endure, subscribe. Because some of the most powerful roles aren't played at full volume. They're carried by the people who learned how to stay calm when everything else fell apart.